Before I get to Mehdi Hassan's interactions with Abdullah Hammoud, I want to go to later in the interview and point something out, and I'm sorry to keep harping on this.
I think I am disagreeing because you have to look at the facts. When I have a resident who has lost loved ones, I have a resident who both of his grandmothers had to be pulled out from under the rubble of two residential towers that were decimated by IDF fighter jet. You cannot look to that individual and say, while I send my condolences for the loss of your grandmothers, you need to vote for Biden because it would have been worse under Trump. I don't think that is the reality.
What about the
There's
argument?
a subsect of this population
Understood.
which will not vote for Biden.
Agreed.
We have to accept that.
Agreed.
We will not vote for
Why is Mehdi Hassan interrupting someone, Abdullah Hammoud, who's talking about real personal tragedy, real people who died? Why is he interrupting anyone that he said he was going to help get their voices through? That's why he left MSNBC. He said he couldn't get the message out. You tell me what I'm missing. What I see is that Mehdi has an agenda of forcing Hammoud to admit that everyone must vote for Biden because Trump will be worse. And I'm okay with that. But don't interrupt someone when they're talking about real human tragedy. I mean, this is courtesy 101. I just don't get it. It starts out very well. Mehdi's opening is good. I'm not going to play that. I'm just going to play the first two clips where he starts his interaction with Abdullah Hammoud.
Abdullah, let me start with you. You have been super critical of the Biden administration. You were a strong supporter of the uncommitted vote in Michigan, which got nearly 19% of the Democratic primary vote there, more than 45,000 votes. But what do you say to people in your party who say ultimately that's all a distraction? When push comes to shove, everyone, including Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, has to vote for Biden in the general election.
Right, now, this is very interesting, right? So Hassan's saying, again, what do you say to people in your party that say, yeah, all this stuff is horrible, but, we have to vote for Biden in the election? Now, he's asking the question. And as you're going to see, Hammoud gives a very good answer. I mean, I couldn't give a better answer. So everything he said is what I would have said. But as you'll see later, Mehdi's not really asking the question like, how would you respond to people in your party? Like, how would you respond to me? Because that's what I think you should do.
I say that it's my duty as the elected for the region, but also as a member of this nation to hold my elected official accountable. And that's exactly what we did with the uncommitted vote. It was trying to rally the vote to demonstrate that what's happening in Gaza is unacceptable and that what our president has been doing and the decision making that he has taken upon along with his administration is absolutely unacceptable and making all of us complicit with this genocide. We have to end the endless, unlimited checks to Benjamin Netanyahu in the most right-wing government in Israel's history. We have to call for a permanent ceasefire. We have to have the backbone to hold those who commit war crimes accountable. And President Biden has demonstrated that he's not able to do this at this point in time. And so we want to clearly send the message that he must move along with the center of the party prior to coming to November, because none of us want to see Trump elected to the presidency, as that can unravel democracy altogether.
But I can only speak for myself. As you can see, I'm a boomer, white, entitled. I will not vote for Joe Biden in this election. No way, no how. He killed children with my money, and that's it. Trump comes or somebody worse comes, I'm not going to play God and say I know the future. I will not vote for him. He killed in my name. End of story for me.
I understand the circumstances of electoral politics, but what I will not accept is this idea that fear-mongering is what's supposed to drive, especially young people and Democrats, to the ballot and having to plug your nose and vote for Biden just because Trump is on the other side of the ticket. I think what we need to highlight is the fact that what's happening in Gaza cannot get any worse. I keep hearing this, and as the mayor for the city of Dearborn, what I tell you is when my resident comes to our council chambers and says, I have lost 80 family members, I don't think it's prudent upon this president or any part of his campaign to come out and say, well, it would be worse under Trump. There's nothing worse than 80% of all civilian infrastructure decimated, 50% of all deaths are innocent children, and 100% of a population is displaced. And this idea that somehow President Biden has been advocating for a ceasefire or humanitarian access, he has the ability to pick up the phone today, I promptly believe, and end this war altogether. He can
Agreed.
close the pipeline to all the bombs and weapons manufacturers supplies to the IDF, to Benjamin Netanyahu, but he refused to do so. And so I think it's wholly unacceptable. People want to be inspired to come out to the ballot. You know, Keith Ellison, I'm somebody who was a surrogate for you when you ran for DNC chair. And I was inspired to go out, to go state to state and advocate for my brother Keith Ellison to become to the DNC chair, because he believes in grassroots activism. And him and I have the same core set of beliefs that you want to unite the Democratic Party. And at the core of the Democratic Party are young people, are brown and black people, are Muslim Americans, Arab Americans. And right now, looking at college campuses across the country, it seems that Biden has forgotten that when he is more in alignment with Greg Abbott and Benjamin Netanyahu, we have serious questions that we have to ask this party.
Okay, I'm going to nitpick with Abdullah Hammoud. You know, let's be fair here. The core of the Democratic Party used to be people like me, right? Used to be white, you know, the people in power, the people that wanted fairness, that wanted human decency. Let's just talk about human decency. That didn't want our weapons used to kill innocent people around the world. We used to be part of that party. But it's not a party for us anymore. At least it's not a party for me. I'm sorry my video is spiraling so out of control. There's so many ways of talking about this. I didn't even talk about the stuff Keith Ellison said. And I just want to point out again that, you know, most of it's good. Again, yeah, Mehdi Hassan has got great talents, but when he starts to use his mic and his position as a bully pulpit, it really gets bad. And I wish he would just stop doing that. Anyway, so this is sort of my take on the positions after watching the whole video. And I definitely encourage you to watch the whole video and, you know, you come up with your own conclusions. Anyway, I think Abdullah Hammoud is basically saying our government supplied bombs to a country that's killing civilians, okay? And we need to deal with that. And Keith Ellison is saying, you know, I'm sort of part of the Democratic Party. I'm trying to get people elected, but I'm not going to, you know, not going to fight back on anything that Abdullah says. And Mehdi Hassan, again, if you look at the video, I think you'll see he's sort of always, he's pushing. He asks the questions, but he's really pushing. You can see he believes, Mehdi Hassan believes, that Trump is worse than Biden. Therefore, we must look past the Gaza situation to vote for Biden. So when, you know, Abdullah Hammoud sort of says, you know, we can't look past it, that's when Mehdi starts interrupting him, because he just wants to get to that. He just wants to argue that point. Mehdi Hassan wants to argue the point, you know, who should we vote for if we want the world to be a better place, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I also want to just, you know, put Abdullah Hammoud's, these are all statements, these are all sort of like quotations directly from him, because I think he really captures how I see it, at least. And I think it's important that we really just like slow down and think about what he said. And again, that he shouldn't have interrupted him so much. So he said, it's my duty as the elected official for the region, but also as a member of this nation, to hold my elected official accountable. I agree, 100%. Who can't agree with that? What's happening in the U.S. is unacceptable and making all of us complicit with this genocide. Now, you may agree or not agree with it. I mean, I agree with it. We have to call for a permanent ceasefire. Again, I agree. We have to have the backbone to hold those who commit war crimes accountable. And again, I couldn't agree, right? So I don't understand why, like, Mehdi Hassan's always happy about Trump, going to court for all these things and being held accountable. And we're worried about Trump being held accountable for, like, money he paid to stop somebody from going to talk to the newspapers. And we're not going to hold somebody accountable for children and women getting children killed. Anyway. And then, when Hassan presses him about voting for Biden, he says, I understand the circumstances of electoral politics, but what I will not accept is this idea that fear-mongering is what's supposed to drive, especially young people and Democrats, to the ballot and having to plug your nose and vote for Biden just because Trump is on the other side of the ticket. And that fear-mongering is what Mehdi Hassan is doing. He's using a bully puppet. Again, you come watch the video yourself. Watch his other videos, and you tell me, is Mehdi Hassan actively pushing people to vote for Biden because Trump is worse? I believe he is. But again, make up your own mind. When you look at what's happening this is unprecedented. You can't look at this genocide and say that hasn't been a precedent for this level of genocide. And that's true. I don't believe this has happened since, since Dresden, as far as the United States is concerned. So, yeah, or Hiroshima. It's unprecedented what we're seeing. It's just off the charts. And anyway, I agree, but you can disagree if you want. Now I'm going to go into the interesting, what I find sort of hypocrisy about what Mehdi Hasan is doing. So when he interviewed Mark Regoff, Mehdi Hasan kept wanting to push him to say, admit that you're killing women and children. Admit you're killing women and children. And I should go get the clips, but I'm sure you saw it, right? So that's what he was doing, and I agree with that. That's why I enjoyed that interview. Even though I felt that he was abusing his position, I agreed. I wanted to see Israel's feet held to the fire about what's going on. So that's what he wanted to do. But I think if Mark Regoff could have made the argument back, you say, hey, listen, Mehdi, yeah, I know it's bad that we're bombing, these children are dying, but listen, our government is the lesser of two evils. We have Netanyahu on the right, and on the other right, we have, Eliyahu, right? And he talked about potentially using a nuclear bomb on Gaza, right? So this is, okay, yeah, I know it's bad, but, you got to look at the reality from our point of view. But again, Mehdi Hasan did not look at that reality. All he wanted to do was get Mark Regoff to admit that they were killing women and children. So, okay. Now, what's Mehdi Hasan doing? He's making the same argument to Abdullah Hammoud. He's saying, hey, Biden is he's a little bit on the right on the Israeli issue, but he's not the far right like Trump. Far right would be worse. But I don't think it's a given that Trump is going to support anybody nuking, Gaza. We don't know what Trump would do. We know what Biden did. We don't know what Trump would do. Against fear-mongering to say so. So I don't understand it. It's weird. Think about it, right? So with Mark Regoff, he just wants to focus on the children dying, right? And tries to force him into saying that that's happening. When he doesn't say that that's happening, basically calls him a liar, right? And then with Abdullah Hammoud, who wants to talk about the children who's dying. Now Mehdi Hasan is saying, no, we're not going to talk about that. We need to talk about the lesser of evils in the upcoming election, how we need to hold our nose and vote for Biden and not Trump, because Trump will be worse. Right? It's I mean, I think that's why Abdullah Hammoud sort of laughs a little bit at some of the stuff that's going on there, because it's like, what the heck? And again, I encourage you to go watch the video, but I just want to point out again, I didn't write a book on how to win an argument, but if your argument is that Biden is lesser evil than Trump, then you need to really call back Mark Regoff and say, hey, come on, Mehdi Unfiltered, come on, Zeteo, and yeah, let's talk about that. Because, I think he will.